In February 2022, Putin invaded Ukraine, starting the first full-scale war in mainland Europe of the 21st century and a massive new continental refugee crisis. That month, we shared an adaptation of the traditional English folk song Over the Hills and Far Away in support of those people fleeing Ukraine, whose upturned lives really had an impact on us because they looked and felt familiar to other Europeans. Over the hills and far away. And there was an amazing response in Kent and the UK. Later that year, we had a message from a guy called Brian in Sittingbourne, who told us about his experiences as a brave volunteer, ferrying supplies out to the war zone.
I loved your song about refugees. Since the invasion, I have been bringing vehicles and aid out to Ukraine. The people I met on that first trip begged me, don't let people forget us. Could you do one about the suffering of the people left behind?
We tend to get lots of requests from people who send us lyrics and ideas, but this one hit home, because it came from the heart, from someone witnessing the conflict zone, and it was also a chance to connect sympathy for Ukraine to other crises and situations where people had been separated, had had to flee or chosen to seek asylum and left their lives and families behind. See Your Face Gun was born, but we called the project Displaced at first.
Over several weeks, Dad and the girls developed some lyrics and chord sequences in the girls' bedroom with an acoustic guitar. Every night we'd make a bit of progress and then watch the news. Not just Ukraine, but the scenes in Afghanistan and Iran, the earthquakes in Turkey and Syria and then Sudan. It reminded me how lucky we are to be under the same roof, under a roof, together. We wanted to capture that and kind of turn it upside down.
It's not easy to talk about refugees in the UK at the moment. It's a very toxic and divided landscape. We know we've got too many people arriving dangerously by boat across the Channel, and we've got policies that aren't fit for purpose, and often new language and new proposals that revolve around detention and deportation and removing rights.
The song's not going to solve that. We do songs, but what can a song do when people are angry and scared and desperate? What we wanted the song to do is to use our family connection, our canvas, to try and paint these issues on. Because as Ukraine showed, if you see yourself in someone else's shoes, it makes a bit more sense, it leaves a bit more space for compassion and empathy, and music can bring that out more powerfully than any online petition.
We first came across KRAN, Kent Refugee Action Network, through some arts and humanities projects with young people. KRAN work to support separated young refugees and asylum seekers, young people aged 16 to 24 who've arrived in Kent alone and are claiming asylum. They're another kind of family, and they offer a safe, positive space and loads of activities and support to help people integrate and succeed. Their team had dropped us a line to say thanks for an earlier song we did, protesting the Rwanda scheme of the government to fly asylum seekers to Central Africa. So we leaped at the chance to collaborate with them on the project, and especially the video.
The song has a broken section in the middle eighth, where it switches from Ella's voice to our voices, who represent a sense of being stuck and facing nightmares and a world of rubble and sirens. But at the end it rises and builds, and joins with other voices. And the idea was that we can still aim for hope, and still dream about togetherness and a shared humanity. And that's where it felt perfect to bring in shots of amazing people like Rishan and Osama. Rishan's now a KRAN youth ambassador, studying nursing, but she was originally from Eritrea and left her family in Sudan, arriving in Kent aged 16, same age as me.
Osama was hilarious. He's obviously a good footballer and tells good jokes, like me. He was my age, 15, when he moved to Jordan from Syria because of the war, and eventually the UN helped him escape to the UK, where he now studies computer science. But for all his many qualities, he did really struggle with the sign language that we asked everyone to learn and perform for the video.
Working with KRAN and with young people navigating their lives through treacherous paths and waters, sometimes literally, made total sense and fit with the song's lyrics. The words often start with an if only line. If I could fly like a bird, if I could strike like a sword. Like, look what could happen if we get this right, if we treat people right.
And the video wasn't just about looking forwards, so we were over the moon that English Heritage kindly agreed to let us film at some of their iconic sites, like St Augustine's Abbey, where there was a North African abbot, Hadrian, in the 8th century, who was a pioneer in education, and he's buried in Canterbury. And we got the chance to film in the Huguenot Chapel, which was created to support communities of refugees fleeing persecution in France in the 17th century.
The last piece in the song's jigsaw was really late and really unexpected, but just as special. On the morning school run, they listened to the news and they heard on the radio in April a story about a guy in his 20s from Afghanistan who'd fled when the Taliban overran Kabul. He'd been a budding musician, but he'd had to leave his violin behind because that regime repressed music. And after various perils and detentions, he ended up in Los Angeles. So it was this good news viral story, not unlike our own during the pandemic, that cheered people up with music, because some random American sound engineer had heard of this musician and decided to gift him an antique violin that he wasn't playing. So Ali Esmahilzadeh was given this ancient German violin, and suddenly the Washington Post and the BBC were covering it because it was so heartwarming.
We didn't expect a reply. When you've gone viral, everyone wants a piece of you and you can't manage the communications. But when Ali heard about our project, he responded with a thumbs up. He was the same age as Tess when he first learned the violin.
So you guys are up here. So this is
Hi.
This is Ali. This is Alla, who is the singer. Well, one of the singers, but the main singer on the track. And what do you play?
Cornet. So it's like a trumpet, but it's like a mini version of a trumpet.
Oh,
And then this is Tess. And Tess was excited to meet you because what does Tess play?
Violin.
What?
oh.
There's a delay on this.
Okay.
What age were you, Ali, when you started playing violin? How old were you?
When I was 13 years old.
Okay, so you're 2 years younger. So you should be 2 years better at violin than Ali is when you reach.
Lots of his family are still back there in Afghanistan. 2 months later, and we've been able to remotely record and work a violin part into the mix. And knowing that it's this old German instrument that was carried across continents, and it met this Afghan guy in LA who had been in India and Kabul, and it merged with this English family, and it ended up bottled in a sound, that's pretty special.
So now you know there's a lot of stories and a lot of heart we've tried to pack into 3 minutes.
It's for Ukraine.
It's for Refugee Week.
It's for KRAN.
It's for Brian.
It's for Ali.
It's for everyone battling the tides of opinion, the tides of fear, the tides of abuse.
It's for hanging on to a future of compassion, for seeing that side of ourselves again, seeing that face again.